Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. We're going to be talking today about my favorite winter palettes with regards to color story. So I'll go through each and every one of them. Some of them are kind of categorized. I've given ColourPop its own kind of category because I have a lot of ColourPop palettes, and a lot of the ones in this video that you're going to see are ColourPop palettes, so I figured I would give them kind of their own section. So let's just get right to it. I'm just going to start off with one of my favorite palettes that I own, and this is the Huda Beauty New Nudes eyeshadow palette. I don't know if I'm the only one who loves this, but for me, wintertime is very kind of like berry toned themed, so having a lot of the berry tones in this palette as like kind of a neutrally nude sort of color tone just screams winter to me for some reason, and I absolutely love it. It's definitely turned into one of my absolute favorites. I can see myself using this all year round, not only in wintertime, but just because of those berry tones and because berry tones are something I tend to gravitate towards during the winter, I am putting it in the winter category of eyeshadow palettes. The only thing about this palette is that there are two pressed glitters in here, which I do not love. I really don't like pressed glitters. They're not safe around the eyes. They're not safe for the environment. So for me, having the two pressed glitters in here is kind of a fail, but the rest of the palette is just so nice that I'm still going to use it. Still think it's worth the money. The next palette is one that I haven't actually gotten around to using yet, and this is the BH Cosmetics Love in London palette. This is a really pretty palette. I love the color story. The reason I got this one was because I really wanted the Manny MUA Lunar Beauty Greek Goddess palette. I'll probably still get it eventually, but this one was a lot more inexpensive and gave me kind of the same sort of vibes. It was like a cool neutral with a pop of blue. So I figured I would pay the $8 or whatever because it was on sale and I got it for a significant discount. I figured it was worth trying to see if I liked BH Cosmetics formula because I'd never had a BH Cosmetics palette before, and because it was so inexpensive, I was like, why not? I'll give this a try and see if I actually like the color story before investing the $50 into Lunar Beauty's Greek Goddess palette for something that I might not even decide I like. So for me, it just screams winter. I'm not much of a neutrals person, but for a neutral palette, I really liked this. I like that there's a pop of blue in here. Would recommend for the winter. It's good. It's a nice color story. It's a nice winter color story. Another one that I got a bit ago and I haven't been able to try yet, this is the Essence Water palette. So they made 4 different palettes based on the different elements. So there was water, air, earth, and fire. This one was the most unique to me just because I didn't have any blues in my collection. Arguably still don't really have that many blues in my collection, but this is what the palette looks like. There's just some really nice blue tones in here, very ocean themed. You have a couple of browns in there as well, so like the gold and the brown down there with a silver, and the rest are just kind of blues with this like sort of iridescent white shade up here. It's really pretty. I love the theming of this palette because I'm a huge like zodiac, like elemental sort of person, so this palette was very interesting to me. I was very tempted to get all the other 3, being the completionist that I am, just to say I have all of them, because like it's hard to just buy the one. I'm not even a water sign. My sign is an air sign, and the air palette wasn't nearly as interesting to me as this was because this one I felt like was really filling some holes in my collection. I'm really excited to use this. This is really pretty. I love the color story. Yeah, I can't wait to see what this offers. Next we have a holiday release from this year. This is the Pat McGrath Celestial Divinity. So this not so much a winter themed palette as it is more of a holiday themed palette. This for me, not just because it came out around holiday time, but just the colors that you get in here. You could make a really beautiful like New Year's Eve look with this. You could make a really pretty Christmas look with this. For me, this just screams holiday time in general. Like, so anytime between like September and the end of December, January, this is like my kind of go-to palette because it's very festive. It might have something to do with the time that it came out, but to me this just screams festive. There's just so much going on in here. It's super colorful, super bright, super vibrant. You can make some really beautiful looks in this. Just as a reminder, you do get 2 pre-existing color stories in here. You get the 2 from the Star Wars collections, from the 2 6-pan palettes they released last year, and then the 6 colors in the 2 center columns are brand new. So I missed out on the Star Wars launch last year, so I was really happy to see them come back in this palette. This is a beautiful palette. The quality is, as always, stunning. It is Pat McGrath. The first look that I created was using this, and this one here, or was it this one? I can't remember. One of the darker shades, as well as these two, like this kind of like shimmery green. It is a duochrome, this one, and it's absolutely stunning. I love this palette. This is an absolute winner for me. Probably one of my favorites in my entire collection. The next one I have, and this is the palette I'm wearing on my eyes currently. This is the Kaleidos Futurism 3 Astro Pink palette. This is a 5-pan. Let me open it up. I still have this little thing in here. That is what that looks like. This is a beautiful palette. This is one of my favorite Kaleidos palettes that I own. Let's be fair, all of their palettes are freaking beautiful. All of their palettes are some of my favorite ones that I have in my entire collection, just because they're so unique. I've never seen colors like this. And this one is probably one of the most unique that they have within their repertoire. What I basically did is I created my wing first with this darker berry tone, and then I kind of spread it out and buffed it into the crease and in the outer corner. And then I went in just to diffuse it a little bit with these two shades on the center and then the inner part of my eyelid. I created the definition of the wing with the black eyeshadow, and then I went into the inner corner with the blue. This blue is absolutely stunning. It is a duochrome, so it looks purple if you look at it from one angle, and then it looks like a blue teal on the other. Let me just swatch that for you so you can see. This is the most amazing shade, or one of the most amazing shades I've ever seen. Like, it's absolutely gorgeous. Yeah, this palette is a definite winner in my books. It's one of my favorite ones that I own. Just straight up, it's one of my favorite palettes that I own. Yes, this is amazing. And very winter themed, because it's got those like kind of cool tone browns in there. It's got that berry tone that I love so much in the winter. It's got that like sort of cool purpley themed blue. On the camera it looks a lot more vibrant than from the side, because it's a duochrome, so like I see it as purple looking at it from the side, but when I turn it, it's like very shimmery shiny blue. But yes, you can create a lot of really interesting looks with this palette. I think this would also be really beautiful for a super glam New Year's look. Now I have two palettes here from Odin's Eye. The first one is pretty, like, both of them are very winter themed, not so much winter themed as it is like late fall, early winter. But this is the Odin's Eye Freya palette. You get a lot more of those berry tones in here, which again I really love in the winter time, because for me, I love berry tones in winter because it reminds me of, like, you know, those classic images that you see of wintertime with like the white snow, but then you see those like berries, those red berries amongst the white snowy backdrop. It's usually like with a brown tree branches, bare tree branches, and sometimes there's a cardinal involved in the image as well. Just for me, red and specifically like berry tones are very reminiscent of wintertime, weirdly enough, just because that's what I associate those like images of the red birds and the red berries like in front of a white snowy backdrop is what I associate with winter. So when I see like a red tone berry palette, it's like, ooh, that's a wintertime look. That's gonna be some winter vibes. And while this one has a lot of like orangey, like warm orangey tones as well that would look really good in the fall, I think this one is a great transition palette to have like in the fall and winter. So like late fall or even all throughout fall, and then like in the winter time as well. It's like a very good multi-seasonal palette. And then we have this second Odin's Eye palette, which is the Solman palette. This one's kind of the same. I feel like this one is very multi-seasonal in its use. This one could be used in the late fall because it has those like warm orangey yellow tones in there, and then the winter because you have some of those cool tone browns, but also in the springtime. Like this one is also, I could see being a really nice springtime palette just because of that like lilac in the middle there. I've seen so many of the YouTubers that I love just rave about this palette, like this one specifically, just because how unique the color story is. And I've heard nothing but really good things about the quality of Odin's Eye's formula, and having used their other palettes, I have the 3 mini Elva 2 palettes, and I love those. They're so pretty, and there will be videos up on those at any point. But yes, very nice winter, fall, spring toned palette. Okay, now we're moving into ColourPop, and I have quite a few ColourPop palettes to show you. I've kind of separated them into two different categories. So the first category is more neutral tone palettes. So for those of you who really like neutral tones with your like daily eyeshadow looks, then these are the ones to look out for at ColourPop. The first of the 9 pans in the neutral family, we have the Going Coconuts neutral palette. This one is a super cool toned. It's very neutral. Like, it's not that cool tone. It works if you like warm tones or cool tones. It's kind of sitting right in the middle, but it's not as warm as, like, say the nudes or the nude mood is. I'm getting so confused with my eyeshadow palette names. This is a really pretty palette though. I've made some really gorgeous looks with this, specifically when I've used it in conjunction with another one of the palettes that I'll show you later, and I'll bring this one back up when I do. But you have some like really nice deep brown tones in here that you can use to create a wing to your eyeliner. Some absolutely gorgeous shimmers in here as well. I absolutely love this one in the middle, this Cocoa Crush Palm Reader is also really nice. It's got a bit of a iridescence to it. You have 2 satin shades, so Shredded and Get Crackin'. And then the rest are just true mattes, other than those 3 metallic shades in the middle. But this is a really, really pretty palette. And if you like neutrals, this is a nice cooler toned brown neutral palette to go for in the wintertime. Not as cool toned as the next one I'm going to show you, but it is still, in comparison to their other kind of brown neutral palettes, this is the cooler of the one that came before it. So that one was the Nude Mood. That one was the warm toned big sister to the Going Coconuts. So next we have the That's Taupe palette, also from ColourPop. This one is a super cool tone palette. Like, this is the cool tone palette of the brown palettes that ColourPop has. And for wintertime, that is exactly what I am looking for. I absolutely love this palette. It is almost a condensed version of their new Stone Cold Fox palette that they came out with. It's a mega palette with 30 eyeshadow shades, which to me, I didn't buy that one because it was a bit too overwhelming. I don't prefer mega palettes, and I just don't like palettes to have that many shades in it. I find I get really overwhelmed. So I like these smaller, concise color stories that really like kind of test me in what I can do with them. And they're also just really versatile, and you can take them traveling if you need to, versus using like something like a mega palette. I just don't gravitate towards mega palettes that much. And this one, just the theming of it, and then also because it was a true cool tone palette versus something like the Going Coconuts that still had a bit of that warmth to it. It was kind of like straddling the middle between warm and cool. This one was a true cool toned palette. So if you like cool tones, if you like the ColourPop 9-pan palette formula and format, you will absolutely love this versus something like the Stone Cold Fox. If you like big palettes, if you want everything just in one palette and that's the only thing you have to buy, then you can go for the Stone Cold Fox. You'll get a lot of shadows in there. But if you like this 9-pan format, then this is the one definitely to go with. It's very cool tones, super winter themed. Next we have some purples in here. So first off is another 9-pan. This is the Making Mauves palette. Super pretty. This was, I think, a springtime release, and this one I would say works well in the springtime as well, but it's super cool toned as well. Of course, it's called Making Mauves, so it is mauve themed. Go figure. These 3 shimmers in the middle, like in the middle row, they're some of the most beautiful shimmers I've ever used. They're just so special. Specifically these 2 in this one on the right and this, they're just all really pretty. Let me swatch because you just gotta see them. They're just so pretty. I don't know how good that's gonna look on my arm, but it's almost a bit of a duochrome. This one in the middle I absolutely adore. I couldn't tell if this one in the middle was a pressed glitter or not, but it's not actually. They're just so pretty, and I guess I'll swatch that other one just cause we're here. Let's just swatch it. Here we go. There's those 3 shimmers that are in the center of the palette. I love them so much. I absolutely love this palette. It's so pretty. It's a delight every time I pick this out of my drawer to use it, and very cool tone for the wintertime. So if you like to wear purples in the wintertime, this one might be a good one for you. Kind of similar to that one, I would say, is kind of a sister palette to it, is the Flutterby palette, also from ColourPop. This is a larger palette. This is one of their 12 pan palettes, but it's definitely in that mauvey color story. The darkest shade in here is a little bit darker than the darkest shade you get in the Making Mauves. So if you want something that has a little bit more versatility to it, if you want something that you can use to deepen out your looks a little bit more, then this might be the one to go with over the Making Mauves palette, because that one has a little bit less versatility when it comes to deepening out the look you're trying to create. And in this one, you also do get a bit more of like these berry sort of tones in here, like these still cool tone, not so warm, but on the warmer side of the purples. This one definitely leans a little bit more pink than the Making Mauves one does. This one as well also I think would work very well in the springtime. This one in the Making Mauves I think would work really well in like the late winter going into spring. There is also a pressed glitter in here, so if you do not like pressed glitters, this is probably not the one to go with. It's this one right here, Overpacked. I personally don't like pressed glitters, but in a 12 pan palette where I'm only getting one shade that is a pressed glitter, I'm not too fussed about it, because the rest of this color story was just so pretty. I wasn't gonna let one pressed glitter that I'm never gonna use bother me. If I really want to, I will take out the pressed glitter and replace it with another single eyeshadow if I want to, but for now, I'm fine with it being in there. I don't use it, but I'm fine with it being in there. But yes, this is a really pretty palette. I really like it. All right, so the last palette in our neutral ColourPop family for the wintertime is Give It To Me Straight. Now this is a new palette to my collection. I just got this, I think, last week, but it's one of the OG palettes from ColourPop. I think this one and the Sweet Talk, was it Sweet Talk? I can't remember. Yes, Please. No, it was Yes, Please. Yes. So this and the Yes, Please palette are the two original ColourPop eyeshadow palettes. This one really called to me at the time when I was looking at Anastasia Beverly Hills palettes. I couldn't decide between the Soft Glam and the Modern Renaissance, and some of the people that I was watching on YouTube at the time were saying that like the Modern Renaissance was like really good, but that they actually preferred this color story to the Modern Renaissance. So I went with Soft Glam and I ended up picking this up from ColourPop. And again, this is sort of like burgundy, so it works in the fall, but there's that sort of berryness to it that makes me think wintertime. So it's not like red berry, but it's like burgundy and red enough to make me think about berries in the wintertime. So this one for me just screamed winter when I saw it, and I was like, oh, I'm kind of in a wintry mood now that Halloween's over and we're moving into like Christmas time decorations and stuff. So now's the time when I'm looking at a lot more burgundies and berries and red tones of literally everything. One of the palettes that I'm really looking at right now is the Naughty News by Huda Beauty. And when that thing first came out, I was not interested whatsoever. But now that we're moving into Christmas time and like holiday festiveness, I'm like, this looks really good. I might buy that later. But definitely if you're looking for those like more burgundy tones in the wintertime, like in the fall going into the winter, this is the one to pick up. It's a great palette and I've heard nothing but good things about it. Next, we're moving into a few more 9-pan palettes from ColourPop, and these were the ones that didn't really belong in the neutrals family. So first up, we have the Blowin' Smoke palette. This one is just their black, white, and gray monochromatic palette. It's kind of hard to see with the lighting that I have. There we go. But this is really pretty. I bought this not to wear on its own, but to actually pair with my other monochromatic palettes, specifically the mint and the yellow one, because gray and yellow, specifically like golden yellow, are two of my like favorite colors to pair together. Like yellow and gray is just, I love that color combination. There's something about it that just really pulls at my heartstrings. So I got this palette to pair with that, but on its own, you could make some absolutely beautiful New Year's glam looks with this palette. Like it's so special. There's something about this palette it just elevates your look to a whole other level. And this is the one that I go into if I need like a thick black eyeliner for a look, because I'm finding I'm moving more and more away from black liquid liner, specifically just liquid liner in general. I find I don't like how harsh it is on the eye. So going in with a small angled brush and an eyeshadow from this palette just basically perfects my look. And all of the gray tones in here are super cool toned. You get a matte black and a satin black. So this one, Night Dream, has sparkly shimmers in it, which is really, really pretty. Some people I know don't like that, but there are no pressed glitters in here, which I love. But yeah, overall, this one is a really beautiful one to use on its own if you want to go really high glam, or if you want to use just some of the lighter gray tones in here paired with another of the monochromatic palettes. This is also a really good one to go with. The next one is it might have possibly overtaken Little Ray of Sunshine as my absolute favorite ColourPop palette in my collection, just because of how unique this color story is. This is the new Baroque palette from ColourPop. Oh my, I love this color story so much. When I first saw the promo pictures for this, I didn't care about the other two palettes because this came out in a set of 3 different palettes. So you have Ornate, Grandeur, and then this one, Baroque. This is the first one that caught my eye, and then I was like, I need to have that. And originally when I saw it, I thought it was an Ulta exclusive, and I'm like, well, I'm gonna have to order that from Ulta and get it forwarded to me through my package forwarding company that I use from the US. I was super grateful when I saw that they were actually releasing these on their own website, so thank you so much ColourPop for bringing this to also Canada. But this is so beautiful. I've used it once so far since I got it a couple of weeks ago, and it's just so unique. You got a lot of navy blue tones. This is another really cool tone palette, so great to use in the winter time. You have this light gray up here. This one, Ritzy, is a duochrome, and it's like a gray but red, or like kind of green duochrome. I can't really describe it, but it's just so special. Let me see if I can get it to hit the light right so you can see that duochrome action. I don't know if you can see that very well, but there we go. Oh, it's just so pretty. It's just so pretty. And this packaging, I'm living for this packaging. The packaging alone for this whole collection made me want to buy all of it, like all of it. I wanted the other 2 palettes, and I still kind of do, even though there's not that much that they offer to my collection uniqueness wise, but eventually I might end up picking them up just because the packaging is so pretty. But yeah, that's this palette. If you're looking for something just super special and unique, this one might be a really good one to go with. It's got almost mauvey vibes to it as well, but it also pulls very blue, like navy blue, and then also you've got some grays in there as well. So if you like that color story and the theming and the packaging, then this is just an amazing palette. This is so pretty. Gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. The next one we have is a very new release out of ColourPop. This is the Star Wars Mandalorian The Child palette. That's what that looks like. It is a green toned palette. You could definitely wear this all throughout the winter time. It definitely gives me more like late winter vibes, like going into springtime, or even like late fall vibes, like around now-ish, just because of those brown shades in there, and then the greens as well just make me think more springtime. Green tones, just for some reason, I have a weakness for yellow and green when it comes to eyeshadows. Every single green palette that I see, I'm like, oh, I must have it. And the same thing with any yellow palette that I see, I'm like, I have to have it, I have to have it, it's so pretty. They're 2 of my favorite colors to put on my eyeballs, and I love it so much. And because green is a very, depending on the tone of the green, it's very multi-seasonal, I feel good about having multiple green palettes in my collection because I'm like, well, I can use these all year. But this one specifically just makes me think kind of late fall or like early springtime, when it's still cold outside, when it's just getting into the beginning of spring. And last but certainly not least, it is the winter-themed of winter-themed palettes. It is the Frozen 2 Elsa palette. That's that color story. This is gorgeous. This is absolutely beautiful. I have made some amazing looks with this palette. What more could you expect from a palette that is themed after the Queen of Winter herself, Elsa? You have this gorgeous periwinkle blue in there paired with this deep burgundy red, and then it's just really pretty. It's just a really pretty palette. You do have a pressed glitter in here. It is that middle shade there. It's pretty easy to ignore because you basically have the exact same shade up here in the top left that is not a pressed glitter. It is a kind of shimmery topper shade. This is just a really pretty palette. You can make some neutral looks with this using the shades up here and then lightly going in with this one. It's very pigmented. This red is enormously pigmented. You want to take a really light hand with this just in case you go too hard in and all of a sudden your whole eyeball is red. So definitely be careful with that and don't put the pressed glitter on your eyeball. This silver is one of the most unreal silvers or just eyeshadows in general that I've ever used. It's super pigmented. It shows up like a dream. Like if you want your entire eyelid to look like basically, I don't know, what's sparkly in silver? I don't freaking know. If you can think of something, that's what you'll look like with this eyeshadow on your eyelid. It's so pretty and of course very winter themed with the blues and the dark red and the silver. And then this just looks like snow. It's really pretty. If you want to look like you have this is the one thing that I've used the pressed glitter for in here, is to put like snow particle glitters along my cheekbones. Whenever I use pressed glitters, I'm really careful so that it does not end up in water. Ideally, every company would use biodegradable pressed glitter, but it's just not a reality at the moment. I never noticed this shade is kind of similar to the one Ritzy in Baroque. Let's take a look. Let's swatch that next to the one before. It's definitely a bit lighter. It's definitely a bit lighter than Ritzy was. But it's also a duochrome that has a kind of goldy tint to it when it shines in the light. For Ritzy, it shows up a little bit more green, the duochrome, but I don't know how well you can see that, but it's really pretty. I absolutely love this palette. I've used it a handful of times since I got it, and I'm just really happy to have this in my collection. It's a perfect winter palette. I know a lot of people, like, this didn't get the best reviews, but if you like Frozen, if you like this color story, if you're looking for something kind of special and colorful to include in your collection for the holiday season and for the winter time, this is definitely the one to go with. All right, and that is it for all of the winter themed palettes that I personally own. There is one that I plan to pick up during the Sephora Black Friday sale, and that's the Huda Beauty Naughty Nudes palette. I absolutely adore the new nudes palette, as you saw earlier, but the Naughty Nudes is just something that really screamed out at me, so I might end up picking that one up during that sale because it's very holiday themed. Like, to me, when I saw that palette, I was like, Christmas! It says Naughty on it, so Christmas, and it's dark red. So and that, like, the shade from that palette that really sold me is that blue duochrome that, like, I don't remember what the shade is called. Passion. It's called Passion. I just looked at my computer screen and I saw it. That blue duochrome shade, that is the shade that sold this palette for me. It's just so unique, it's so pretty, and I'm hopefully going to be able to add it to my collection very soon at the beginning of December. So yeah, that's another winter themed palette that I don't have yet, but I will soon, hopefully. And that concludes this video. So I really hope that this helped you in shopping your own stash and figuring out which of your palettes work for you this winter, and hopefully it inspired you to not go out and just purchase a whole bunch more, and if you do, make smart choices, figure out which palettes you really like and will really add something special to your collection, so that way you're not just buying aimlessly like I tend to do sometimes. But yes, overall, I just hope this was helpful. Thank you so much for watching my video. If you haven't subscribed already, that button is down below to do so. While you're at it, please give this video a big thumbs up so that it gets my video out to more people and it helps me with the algorithm so that more people can see my content. Have a fantastic day, and I will see you in the next video.